So, what if the secret to winning in business today wasn't in some new best-selling book, but in a 2,500-year-old manual for war? Today, we're going to crack open the art of war and see how its ancient strategies can be a total game changer for the modern world.
I know, it sounds like a bit of a stretch, right? I mean, how can battlefield tactics from the age of swords and shields possibly apply to quarterly reports or a new product launch? Well, as you're about to see, the arena might look different, but the fundamental rules of competition, they haven't changed one bit. So in this explainer, we're going to distill the wisdom of this ancient playbook and turn it into a powerful mental framework you can use in today's super competitive landscape. All right, let's dive in. Okay, first things first, let's set the stage. Why this book? Out of all the ancient texts out there, why has this one not only survived, but actually thrived, making its way from old battlefields right into the modern boardroom? Just think about that number for a second. Over 2.5 millennia, this text has been studied, applied, and passed down. That is not an accident. It's stuck around for one simple reason. The insights inside are just completely universal. And that's because, at its heart, it's not really a book about war. It's a masterclass in understanding conflict, positioning yourself for success, and, hitting your goals with the least amount of friction and cost possible. And you see its relevance absolutely everywhere today. Who uses it? Well, CEOs planning to enter a new market, negotiators looking for that critical edge, even sports coaches designing a game-winning play. The principles are just incredibly versatile. All right, let's get into the core principles and see how this all connects. We're going to look at the ancient military idea and then translate it directly into how you'd use it in business today. Okay, this is probably Sun Tzu's most famous idea. Battles are won or lost long before they're ever actually fought. It's not about who has the most brute force. It's about superior planning, it's about foresight, and it's about knowing more than your opponent. And here's where it all clicks. On the battlefield, assessing your troops and supplies was literally life or death. In the boardroom, we call that a SWOT analysis. Studying the weather to know when to attack, that's just modern market research. And knowing your enemy's leader, that's doing a deep dive into their competitor's entire strategy. The context changes, but the logic is exactly the same. The next big principle is all about terrain. Now, in ancient warfare, this meant literally knowing the ground beneath your feet. The mountains, the rivers, the choke points. Your victory depended on using that landscape to your advantage. So, what's the terrain for a modern business? Well, the mountains and rivers are your market conditions. They're always shifting. The roads and choke points, that's the competitive landscape. And just like a general had to know how far his army could march, you have to understand your own company's capabilities and its culture before you even think about making a big move. Sun Tzu was absolutely obsessed with efficiency. He warned that long, drawn-out wars are a disaster for everyone. They exhaust your troops, they drain your budget, and they just crush morale. The goal should always be a swift, decisive victory. In the corporate world, this is the very soul of lean operations. Avoiding a long siege, that means killing those endless, wasteful projects that just drain the budget and burn out your best people. You've got to conserve that energy for focused, decisive initiatives that deliver a clear win. So, we've covered strategy, but what about the strategist? Sun Tzu puts a huge amount of importance on the qualities of the commander, or in our case, the executive leader. See, for Sun Tzu, a great leader isn't just some brilliant tactician. They need to have unwavering discipline and a crystal clear purpose that the whole team understands. They have to be adaptable, ready to pivot, and crucially, they need empathy for their team. Because at the end of the day, a disorganized leader just creates a disorganized and defeated team. Now, this is really important. You have to approach this text with the right mindset. It is an incredibly powerful tool, but it is not a magic rule book. It definitely has its limits. And this quote says it all. The art of war isn't just a collection of clever tricks you can pull out in a meeting. It's about building a deep, strategic way of thinking. Using these tactics without understanding the core principles, well, that's just a recipe for failure. And there are two main pitfalls you've got to watch out for. First, the language is pretty abstract. You have to interpret it to make it practical. Second, and this is a big one, if you take these ideas out of context, they can lead to some really aggressive or manipulative behavior. This is a guide for strategy, not a license for ruthlessness.
Okay, so how do we pull all of this together and actually use it to create a real strategic advantage for ourselves? Here's a simple, practical framework. Before you enter a new market, assess the terrain. Going into a big negotiation, do your prep work on your side and theirs. When a crisis hits, remember the power of adapting quickly. And for your own leadership, actively work on cultivating discipline, clarity, and empathy. And that, right there, is the real power of the art of war today. It's not some dusty old set of instructions. It's a flexible mental framework that teaches you how to think strategically, how to position yourself to win, and ultimately, how to build an advantage that actually lasts. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. In your career, your project, or your company, what is the terrain, the market conditions, the competitive landscape, your own internal capabilities that you need to understand better right now? Because the answer to that question could be your first step toward winning the battle before it even begins.